Hey guys, what's up? This is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This is such a great movie. This is one of the greatest movies I think of all time. Seriously, like even though it's like a fun movie and it's not like meant to be serious and you'd think, oh great movie has to be serious, but it doesn't. It can be a fun movie also. And this is a fun adventure movie that's also like a comedy, and it's a funny comedy and stuff like that. It's got Keanu Reeves and this other guy, Alex Winter, I think Alex Winter, the two guys here. And this is when Keanu Reeves was a kid and Alex Winter was a kid. And then Keanu Reeves, of course, went on to do Matrix and all that stuff. And Alex Winter went on to do The Lost Boys, which I didn't know that until I read the back of this thing. This is such a fun adventure. And it's also got, what's his name? The guy that played Rufus, which is, what's his name? This guy, George Carlin, right? And so they've got him doing it. So George Carlin, in this movie, George Carlin's performance is amazing. Keanu Reeves' performance is amazing. It's just such a good, likable, believable character. And Alex Winter's performance is just as good. The acting is just really, really good. And the story's amazing. And it's sort of like, it's a science fiction time travel story, sort of like Back to the Future was a time traveling science fiction comedy story, where there's a serious story there, but it's also a comedy and it's also like funny and as well as a serious story. But I think like Back to the Future's story was a little bit more serious, and it had a lot to do, but the concept was the same, where they have to do their thing now in order to have a good future. You know, so like that's a lot of the concepts of time travel stories are like that. But this one came after Back to the Future. Basically, they go back in time in a phone booth with like a phone book inside the phone booth, and you would like, it was like an old 80s phone booth, and then inside was like with an antenna on top of it, and inside was like a phone book, one of those big thick phone books. And you open the phone book and you would like find where in history you wanted to go. And then you would just, or I think in the past or the future, and then you would just dial that on the phone keypad, and then you would just go there through the portals of time. They would have these like weird, you know, tunnels that go through time, and they go through all over the place. And so that's basically what it is. It's just a fun adventure movie with time travel. And it's a sci-fi movie, it's comedy, it's an adventure movie, and it's a fun movie. And it's a very, very feel-good movie where there's not like a lot of very, very serious things happening. And this is the kind of movie you can watch again and again. You can watch this a lot of times, because just because you know how the movie goes, it doesn't mean you don't want to see that movie again, because you go on that fun trip again. And it's sort of like going on an amusement park ride. It's like, just because you went on it a few times doesn't mean it's not going to be fun to go on it again. You know, that's the thing with this movie. An amazing performance by Reeves and Winter. Great performance by the guy who played Rufus, Carlin. Amazing stuff. This is pretty cool. It's got the this is just the box and everything that the UMD came in. So anyway, so basically, okay, the story is, there are two kids, and they're like so ditzy. They're like, they're very ditzy. They're sort of like the California, they're from San Dimas, California, and they're sort of like the California Valley Girl vibe, where it's got that like Fast Times at Ridgemont High kind of vibe, where like, you know, the people in Fast Times at Ridgemont High was also in California. And they were ditzy. They're like, yo, dude, you know, like, and so basically they're trying to make their band. They got each other, and basically with both guys, they're trying to make this band called Wild Stallions. And so what happens is Rufus, well, okay, so before that, they're basically in school, and they're in history class, and they can't really understand history. And they're gonna fail the class because they don't know, you know, anything about, like, they're not paying attention. They're not gonna pass the class. They don't know history like they're supposed to know it. And there's gonna be a history presentation. And the guy and the teacher is like, well, you know, you guys, if you don't pass the presentation, if you don't get an A, you're gonna flunk history, and that means they flunk out of high school. And so if they flunk out of high school, then Keanu Reeves' character has to go to military school because his dad wants him to go to military school because his dad's like a military guy. And so, but if they pass, then they can go on and make their band. They can have their band, and then they'll be able to make music and create a band. That's what they want to do for themselves. But Rufus comes down from the future in the phone booth, and he says, well, you guys are, you've got to make Wild Stallions. You cannot fail this test, because if you make Wild Stallions, the music of Wild Stallions will inspire a new world of amazing opportunity to come up from the old world. It's going to create like this amazing utopia. It's going to create a better world for everybody, like a great world for everyone. Just the music of your band of Wild Stallions is studied and taught to kids, and it's considered the best music of all time, and it's the reason the future is going to be so great. But in order to have Wild Stallions, you got to pass this test. And so he comes down and basically tells them that, and basically gives them this time machine, and they can go wherever they want in a time machine, and wherever they want to go, they would just like fit, they'd open the phone book, they'd look inside, wherever they want to go, they'll dial it in, and the time machine takes them to the place and time that they want to go to. So they're sitting there and they're like, well, how are we going to pass this history exam? Rufus said if we don't pass the history exam, the future is not going to be this amazing place. It's only going to be, and our band is not going to be this amazing band that everyone's going to love in the future, right? And so how do we do that to make our band great and the future of mankind amazing with our music, right? And so they're like, well, we don't know. They're thinking like, how do we do this? How do we do this? And they're like, wait a minute, we have to pass a history exam, right? And we have a time machine. So we can go into history and we can learn history through the time machine and go into history and basically learn history from the people themselves. We don't have to read it in the book. We can like, if we want to learn about Abraham Lincoln, we'll go to Abraham Lincoln and talk to him. So they end up going back and they pick up Abraham Lincoln. They pick up, Attila the Hun. They pick up Napoleon. They pick up Socrates and stuff like that, right? And they pick these guys up, and they take them in the time machine with them and stuff like that. And they take him to the time machine, and they take him to the time of the presentation they take him in the time of the presentation of the history exam, and they just like they basically have the characters of history walk onto the stage and tell their story about why they were important in history, right? So Abraham Lincoln tells his story, and like Napoleon tells his story, and Socrates, even though Napoleon only spoke French and Socrates only spoke ancient Greek, it was interesting because they were, and the teacher was like impressed. They were like, wait a minute, you got people, basically, I don't think the teacher thought that the people on stage were actually Abraham Lincoln and Socrates and Attila the Hun and all these guys, but it was just such a presentation. Like they basically did the presentation on stage with the characters of history talking about history, and thereby getting an A on the history exam. So that's kind of like it was such a very like ingenious way to do it. Like they wouldn't have been able to pass the history exam if they would have had to memorize everything, but because they took the actual characters of history and put them into the presentation, they were able to get an A on the presentation and pass the class. Amazing story. And so not only that, because they did that, they passed the test, they passed the class, they got an A, and then they passed school, and that means like he didn't have to go to military school because he graduated, and they could go on there and make their band a reality. It's such an amazing, like, fun idea. And what's interesting is, like, I didn't really get the whole plot. Like, why are they getting all these different characters from history, and how are they going to do this? You know, what is going to happen? But the adventure is so fun that they it's just about the adventure that they have doing it. You know, it's just the adventure. And it also says something about, you never know, like, in the present, what the future would be. You know, you never know, like, if you're getting that band together with your friends, right? You never know if that band, because the concept in the story is basically the moral of it, or what it's saying. Maybe it is a moral, but I think the message of the story is, like, you never know what your actions today can be in the future. Like, you never know if that band you're going to put together with your friends is going to create a utopia in the world in the future. Like, it's possible. It could happen, right? You know, something that, you know, nobody knew at the time. You don't know at the time what your actions can do into the future. And also, I think it's a good message to kids, saying you can pretty much do whatever you want, but first you have to pass school. You know, like, you have to pass school, and then you can do whatever you want. You can't, like, you know, if you don't pass school, things are going to be very, very difficult, right? You know, to go on and do the things that you want to do. But if you pass school and you're done with that, then everything is possible, and everything could be amazing, and you can really make it big. And they didn't make it big because they made a lot of money from their band. Their band just became so important, and the music so well liked, that it created, like, a utopia on the planet. It created this future where there was harmony and peace and all kinds of good feelings, because and the world was just a great place because of their band and because of the music that they made. And their music was studied by the kids of the future, and, you know, the college kids or the school kids of the future, considered the greatest, most influential, the greatest, like, most, like, positive, you know, music of all time. Really interesting. I like the cover, and the front of it is just, like, it's got, like, George Carlin, the two of them guys. And Keanu Reeves is so young in this one. It's so funny that I never even thought that, like, this was the same Keanu Reeves as the guy in The Matrix. It just felt like a different person, because the guy, he plays this, like, valley girl or valley guy, this Californian valley guy accent sort of dude. But in The Matrix, he plays a completely different. He's like more of, like, a tech nerd, you know. So anyway, the back of this, and it's got some of the clips on the back, so that's cool. And the back of this is real interesting. It's like, Keanu Reeves, The Matrix, Alex Winter, The Lost Boys. I did not know that Alex Winter was in The Lost Boys until I read the back of this. And, you know, now that I look at it, it's like, yeah, he did look like one of the vampires in The Lost Boys. But he looked a lot different. In The Lost Boys, he looked like 10 years older. And I think The Lost Boys was only a few years after this movie. And in The Matrix, like, Keanu Reeves looks completely, like, older, you know? And I think they just, like, they looked young in this movie, and then a few years later, they looked completely different. So they played the other movies. Alex Winter delivered a spirited performance, Hollywood Reporter, in the original righteous comedy about the two ditzy dudes from San Dimas, California, also starring George Carlin, when he was still around. He was funny. He did a lot of good movies and stuff. He went into acting. He did Dogma. He did a lot of really good stuff. George Carlin, he's funny. Like, if you've never, like, seen George Carlin's, like, stand-up comedy, check it out. He's irreverent. He's funny. He's been doing comedy since really early, like in the 70s. But I heard about, but, you know, he became bigger, I think, in the 80s when he started doing comedy shows that were just him for HBO. Oh yeah, so George Carlin, this hysterically funny historical comedy is snappily directed and bouncy good time, Boston Globe, in a party that goes on and on. Bill Winter and Ted Reeves have spent so much time forming their rock band, the Wild Stallions, that they're flunking history. Whoa, dude. And when Ted's dad threatens to send them away to military school, Bill and Ted realize it can mean the most heinous end of the Stallions. Luckily, a guardian angel from the future, Rufus, which is like Carlin, has come to them with a most bodacious solution. A time-traveling phone booth to take them into the past and learn about the world from some of history's most influential personalities. Their journey through time turns out to be a blast, and will they learn enough to pass their class? Interesting. But the thing is, like, you know, they don't actually learn from the people in history to pass their class. They take the people from history to do the presentation for them, and they just introduce the people and they get the credit for the presentation, which is like a brilliant idea where they didn't have to actually learn anything. They just got the people, and because it was just a good presentation, they passed. They got an A on the presentation. Like, they didn't actually have to know things about history. They could have, but they actually took people from history to do the presentation, and that was even better because it was just such a great presentation. It's like they didn't even have to know that stuff. Wow, this is kind of like an interesting insert on here. Let me see. Wait, if I can pull this out. Okay, cool insert too. Sometimes they don't have like good inserts, but these inserts were cool. They even had this thing where like an insert recommending Ghostbusters, The Dark Crystal, and Labyrinth. You know, and Labyrinth was also a really good one. I've got that on this kind of disc. So you'll see, like, yeah, Billy the Kid was also in this one. I forgot. So you'll see like they're in history, like, oh god, oh here we go. Okay, they're in history, like, that's the guy who played Billy the Kid. That's the guy that played Abraham Lincoln. Those are the cats from the future that send him the time machine so they can pass the class, so they can make the music that makes the world a better place. And that is them dressed up with these two girls. These are princesses that they picked up from the past, and it's a fun adventure how they did that. And because the first thing they went into the past and they met these princesses, and then these knights were after him, and then they were supposed to be married to some guys, and they're like, they didn't want to get married to them, so they picked them up and they took them in the time machine, and they ended up actually like joining their band, you know. And then you got like the guy that played Socrates, which is this guy, and then you've got the time machine and the two of them sitting on the time machine. I actually dig this. I like this thing, this little poster thing. You know, it's cool when they have like these little posters on the back of these UMD things. I know it's like kind of folded and everything, but you could kind of like, you could unfold it and put it into a display thing if you wanted to put them up on if you want to put these up on the wall or something. If you have like a video room where you like watch movies, or like the room where you watch movies, or a room where you put, or if you like to put movie posters up. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then the UMD's just UMD. And so yeah. And then there's like some of these other stories and stuff. And this is pretty cool. It's fun. It's fun to get, like, this is the kind of movie I would say is good to like. This is the kind of movie that it's good. You know, this is the kind of movie you can actually buy. And I don't buy a lot of movies because, like, in my opinion, I'll watch a movie once and that's usually enough. You know, or like if it's a movie that is like such a big, amazing, good movie, usually you'll have a lot of chances to watch it. Like, it'll be on streaming, you know, it'll be on the internet, it'll be on cable, it'll be on Netflix, it'll be on YouTube, it'll just be all over the place. So you have a lot of chances to watch movies. But when there's a movie that I like that you can't get, like a movie that I like that I I cannot get anywhere. Like, it's not popular, it's not available anywhere. But it's a movie I like, then I like to get it. Or if it's like one of my favorite movies of all time, I like to collect it. You know, it's like there's like rent the movie and then there's like buy the movie, and not every movie's worth buying. It's got to be, a movie has to be reviewable. Like, it's a movie has to be something where you can watch it again and enjoy it again, or something that you love so much that you want to buy it just to put on your shelf, just to have it, because you look at it and you remember you watch the movie, and then maybe once in a while you watch it again. Or your friend comes over and they haven't seen the movie and you have it on your shelf. You're like, you haven't seen this movie, and then you could turn the movie on. Or if you're having like a house party, also you could just like turn the movie on, you know, just the TV, because the TV is going to be on with something, so you might as well like put the movie in, and that way, you know, people can like watch the movie on TV and stuff like that. And it could be the kind of thing where we have music playing, but you also have the movie playing and stuff like that. Or just something where it's just a really rewatchable movie. And I think this one is a very rewatchable movie, because I've seen this several times, and every time it's fun. And I'm probably gonna see it again, because it's just like fun. It's a fun ride, it's a fun watch, and it's really interesting. Just the adventure's interesting, the acting's interesting. The whole story's very convincing. You feel like you're in there, you feel like the story's real. Even though the story's like wild and out there, it feels real because the characters are convinced, you know, they're convincing in the story because the characters are convinced the story is real. Like, they're really serious about, they've got to pass this history exam, they got to get these people from history, they've got to put all these things together, they got to go through time, people are after them, you know, they have to like run away from those people or whatever, or not get like, you know, shot or something, because like, you know, they go down and they go down into the Wild West, and they go down into like Napoleon's War, and they're in the middle of a battlefield and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun, and if you haven't seen this movie, you really should see it. It's so much fun. I totally recommend it. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It even says on the back that Blockbuster Entertainment Guide said this was 3.5 stars. Hard to beat. It's true. It's hard to beat, because it's just seriously like a great movie, and it doesn't feel like a good movie. It doesn't feel like it's gonna be a good movie. You know, it doesn't until you watch it and you're like, wow, that was a good movie. You don't expect it to be a good movie just because of the premise and the way it is and the title, and you're like, oh, it's a movie, you know, but then you're like, wow, that was a really good movie. Like, as movies go, this is a really good movie, and it's a fun ride. So yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you're thinking in the comments, and yeah, like and subscribe to the channel and like the video, and yeah, I'll see you guys in another video later.